I'll be making a few points in the talk, and frequently you'll see me hit the desk or the floor, and also hold this up. So, did you hear that? Can you see that? Yeah. The stick and the sound and your mind, are they the same or different? So that's going to come up a couple of times. This is a demonstration of our true nature. Our true nature is before all kinds of language. All the teachers will use language to point to it, but there's always a mistake because it's before any language appears, because language always has opposites, and our true nature has no opposites in it. So in my tradition, it's demonstrated that way as a kind of participatory action. It's also demonstrated this way. Just by becoming completely still, your true nature is demonstrated. It is indestructible. It was something that was not born, so it cannot die. And you are never without it. It's not possible. Certainly, when I came into meditation and Zen practice, I thought, if I'm unhappy or freaked out or anxious, my true nature has disappeared. And that I would meditate and discover it or find out what it was like, and then that would make me feel better and my suffering would go away. So I thought, if suffering was present, my true nature was not. That's a mistake. And so today's poem is a teaching poem which tries to clarify that. And if it gets confusing, interrupt me, raise your hand, and I'll try and clarify the point more. The poem's about 800 years old. It's from China. The Mahayana developed and grew and had a lot of participants in China. The peak of that was something like 600 AD, or ACE, after the Common Era, right? So, and you guys don't have a text of the poem, so I'll repeat lines as much as I can so it makes some sense. It's called Just Seeing is Buddha Nature. If you want to understand the realm of Buddha, keep a mind which is clear like space. So, let all thinking and all external desires fall far away. Let your mind go any place with no hindrance. So that's the first part of the poem. If you want to understand the realm of Buddha, keep a mind which is clear, like space. So, let all thinking, all external desire fall far away. Let your mind go any place with no hindrance. So the good news here is that our thinking doesn't affect our true nature. So our mind, what we normally think of as our thinking, doesn't obscure it. We might lose track of our true nature, but our true nature is participating all of the time. And the character in Chinese for mind, one portion of it is the organ, is the character for the heart organ. So when the translators translate it, they say, let your mind go any place. But to a Chinese person reading the character, they're reading, let your heart mind go any place. So in the West, we often separate out heart and mind as if they're fighting, or the heart is irrational and the mind is logical, etc., etc. That's not the case from a Zen view. From a Zen view, body, mind, heart, spirit, none of those things are separated out. So a more colloquial way of saying this is keep a heart mind which is clear like space, and let your heart-mind go any place with no hindrance. So from one point of view, that's a little dangerous. Because the poem is not talking about controlling anything. The poem is talking about just relaxing and keeping a heart-mind which is clear like space. So this point, that's a demonstration. Our thinking, that's so sharp and fast, our thinking can't get in there. It's just the demonstration of our senses working. And the teachers, can you see this? Yes, all of us can see this. So that's our true nature participating. The five skandhas, the thing that's mentioned in the Heart Sutra, that's form, feeling, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. So all of those are involved, because everybody hears this. When I hit, the vibrations go through the air, they connect to my ear, my inner ear works, then there are these electrical impulses, then I record the sound. There's no physical separation. It's also going into everyone else's ears, through the air, into your ear, causing these electrical signals, and in our case, going online. Through the satellite, back down, into their ears, if the musician's thing was turned off, and causing them to hear it. There's no separation in that experience. That's why we consider it a demonstration of the absolute. The absolute, or Buddha nature, is not separated out from anything. So, of course, we have a hard mind that if we witness a car accident, we think this is a tragedy, and we think, what good can come from this? So our ruminating, storytelling, evaluating mind gets very involved. However, our Buddha nature is completely present there as well. If we are distracted by the grief or the horror of witnessing the car accident, or our compassion flows and we want to help, if the compassion overwhelms us, we can't act skillfully. But if we can keep our wisdom, which is everything going on at once, and our compassion, then we can respond skillfully in a given moment. Now, all of us, if we're in the modern world and we have any exposure to the media, we'll see what's going on in the world. Either the environment will break your heart, or the wars on the planet will break your heart, or the misunderstandings between people who otherwise get along quite well and then start doing horrible things to each other will break your heart. That's a human being's condition, which is arising out of their attachment to thinking and losing track of that. They lose track of their direct experience, and then their feeling, opinion, idea, the narrative in their head, the narrative in their heart controls their action, rather than the immediate situation. But also, Buddha nature never disappears. There was a news story about an earthquake in Turkey, maybe 2 years ago or a year ago, and they had no real equipment to dig these people out of the buildings, and this woman had made lentil soup and brought it into the street to serve the volunteers. So that's very clear action. You know, I'm not strong enough to move mortar and bricks, but I can make lentil soup. That will help the helpers, and the helpers are trying to save as many people as they can. So in the midst of this extraordinary tragedy, she was a clear thinking person. She let her mind go any place with no hindrance. She didn't just be overcome with grief and become paralyzed. She stayed a human being. She paid attention. Oh, I can do this. So that's the complete interpenetration, we say, of her true nature, the truth she was in, the situation she was in, and her relationship to it, so her correct function appeared. Just help. All of us are like that. We're naturally like that. That's our default setting. But if I suddenly have a person with a story in my head of a religious belief that's 10,000 years old, that my country's been fighting with your country, and my ancestors have been fighting with your ancestors, and I'm going to preserve the honor of my ancestors, and I'm going to blow up your town. So that's not being in the situation. That's being in this narrative. And even if those traditions have a wisdom tradition, they're not trusting their own wisdom tradition to act out kindness and compassion. They're clinging to the tradition to act out violence and harm. From a Zen point of view, good and evil have no self-nature. So the person's true self is not involved in this bad action. Their Buddha nature is still participating in this bad action. It's just bad action instead of Buddha action. And it's bad action because they're trusting their thinking, feeling, and this narrative, what their worldview is, instead of their natural response. Oh, there's a village here, I could just leave it alone. They seem fine, they haven't hurt me. So human beings are extraordinarily complicated. Our minds are complicated. Practice, the Buddha's teaching, is a very simple teaching, and the way it's offered in Zen is always the most direct. The Buddha taught for 40 years, and when people came with a certain kind of attitude or a certain kind of confusion, he gave them a certain kind of medicine. So in the course of all those 40 years, there's a lot of different kinds of teaching which fit a lot of different kinds of problems. But if you don't have the problem, then the teaching is not going to help. So there's a little bit, which is the teaching that's best for my particular kind of confusion? And the simplest way to discover that is really by meditation. Because as soon as we become still, we see our own mind. We see what it's doing, and then we'll see, oh, my suffering is like this. I'm suffering this way. I'm either anxious or driven by desire, or I'm completely confused, whatever. Or why am I alive? What's the purpose of being a human being? What are we doing here? Maybe we're fatalists, what's the point? So we look into that, and our own wisdom begins to illuminate it. So the poem again, if you want to understand the realm of Buddha, keep a mind which is clear like space. Let all thinking and external desire fall far away. Let your mind go any place with no hindrance. All our minds, before thinking, are the same. After thinking, they're all different. So hearing this, everybody's mind is the same. Some people in here are over 75. Some people here are over 25, 35, 45, 55. That's all kinds of conditions, all kinds of different gender, all kinds of different life, all kinds of different worldviews. That's all after thinking, after feeling. Before all that appears, we're the same. Sky's blue, tree's green, dog is barking. If a helicopter went over the building, we'd all hear it. That's our true nature, constantly participating, regardless of our mind. Regardless if I had a trauma at 4 years old, or regardless if my whole family was injured when I was 25. My Buddha nature is still participating in the world. And even when the body dies, our true nature continues. Because our true nature was here before, it's here now, and it continues whether the body carries on or not. Thich Nhat Hanh has a beautiful metaphor. He was in Yosemite Valley watching Bridal Veil Falls, you know. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the water just pours off the top of the cliff, right? Falls, 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 and then it hits this enormous noise. He said, we're like a drop of water that flies off the top of the cliff and falls all by itself, shouting, I'm not water, 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 and then boom, disappears in the pond. I'm water again. No, it's been water the whole time, but it's thinking, we're separate, we're separate, we're separate. That's what human beings do, because we don't trust our direct experience. That's very interesting. So the poem goes, then what is keeping a mind which is clear like space? If your mind is not clear, listen to the following. So you'll notice this word clear like space, clear, clear, clear. So before thinking, your mind and my mind are clear like a mirror. Clear like space, also clear like a mirror. So a stick comes, it just reflects the stick. The stick disappears, it doesn't reflect the stick. Red comes, it reflects red. White comes, it reflects white. Anger comes, it reflects anger. If a hungry person comes, it reflects a hungry person. So we call this seeing the truth. We haven't gotten to function of truth. But our practice is to arrive at the truth. What is actually going on? So we're driving, the light turns red, we stop. The light turns green, we go. It's very, very simple. But if we're preoccupied or having an argument with our friend in the car, the light will turn green and we don't go. Or we're driving on the freeway, home from work, same exit we've taken 25 times. We're so caught up in our problem, our suffering, drive right by the exit. So here's Buddha nature reading the exit sign, but our thinking, feeling is driving the car. Then we wake up a little, oh, hell, I passed my exit. It's going to take me 10 more minutes. That's like that, right? But, so the practice is just returning to this mind that's always there, rather than following the thinking feeling that's going on. We don't demonize the thinking feeling. It has a job and a function. It's just behind, rather than in front. Thinking is how we cure cancer, people have careers, we get great entertainers. That's all based on art, thinking, training, brilliant stuff. Humanity has provided us with brilliant stuff. We still have so much suffering. So even all of this understanding, all of this great science, Webb telescope, etc., we still have suffering on the planet because understanding doesn't help us. Returning to our true nature does. Instantly. We don't even make the choice. It flows out spontaneously when we're not following the story. So, I'll go for a few more minutes. So this poem goes, it is enlightenment nature. So it, for the rest of the poem, this word it is referring to enlightenment nature. Above is the dwelling place of all Buddhas. Below are the 6 realms of existence. So this is a traditional Buddhist story, mythology about heaven being up there with thousands of Buddhas up there. But below, what we're all going through are the 6 realms of existence. Traditionally, they're taught as 6 realms we are born into, depending on how we behave. But from a more contemporary Zen view, these are 6 states of mind which we may go through in the course of one day. We might go through them in the course of 1 hour, sometimes in 1 minute, depending. But so quickly, these 6 realms, just so you have a reference point. At the top are divas, and they're just what they're called. Everything goes well. Everybody says yes. They get everything they want. That's the diva realm. Divas don't practice meditation because they don't need to. Everything's going fine. And yes, that could be Taylor Swift, Beyonce, take your pick. John Lennon, Ringo Starr, they're all divas. They get whatever they want. So why would I meditate? Everybody says yes to me, and I'm rich. Yeah. So that's a diva realm. Asura, those are warriors who are protecting the divas and waiting for their turn. A little agenda in the back. Yeah, I'll make sure you get a plane and your career's going well, but the first chance I get, I want to be the diva. That's Asura. Then next is human being. That's pretty familiar for most of us. Right below is animal realm. Next is hungry ghost. And next is demon. Now, I can speak for myself. I've been a demon, a hungry ghost, an animal, a human being, an asura, and a diva at any point on a given day. Just driving home from work, and there's green lights the whole way. Suddenly, I think I'm a piece of shit. Like, hey, I'm getting home 15 minutes early. What could be nicer, yeah? It's like a momentary diva realm. Yeah, then I get a call from a producer back when I was working. Your show's been canceled. You don't have a job. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate the call. Now I'm unemployed. Now I'm a hungry ghost. I need a job. How am I going to pay the bills? What next? Who do I have to call? A little bit animal mind. I'll do anything to get a job. A little bit human being mind, but I want to do a good job. I want to be a good set decorator, but also hungry ghost. Like, I have to have a job, only get a job, only get a job, only get a job. So then I sit down to meditate. All these minds are there, and they can fall away. And what's left is the table. What's left is the green carpet, the gray robe, the blue shirt cuff. Just what's coming in. And then all of these stories, all of these narratives, they get disrupted with my breath. They get disrupted with here and now. I don't know the future. I don't know the past. All I actually have is now. The past doesn't exist. And the future, no way of knowing. There's no way. Yes, I'll make a plan. But if I don't make the plan flexible, when the future changes, I sink. I won't succeed. So these realms of existence we think of as consciousness or states of mind. Then the practice is actually not a state of mind, it's the absence of mind. And mind is a funny word in English. We say, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. Or we say, do you mind if I have some coffee? Or we say, do you mind if you stop doing that for me, please? So we refer to mind all the time, and we don't know what it is. Because it actually doesn't exist. We've made it up, and it's kind of working in and out of everybody's interaction. And it's in our language. But it's an invention. One by one, each thing is complete. So that line is referring to these 6 realms of existence. One by one, they're complete. So if I'm in a hell realm, that's a complete hell realm. If I have a demon mind, it's complete. And my Buddha nature's there. It's not, it hasn't gone anywhere. If I'm in a diva realm or an asura realm, it's also there. If I'm in the human realm, it's also there. One by one, those realms are complete. One by one, each thing has it. So one by one, each thing has our enlightenment nature. That's a radical view. And they've been teaching it for 700 years. Then it says, it and dust interpenetrate. Dust is a traditional word in Buddhism. It's used to describe perception, name, and form. So I'm perceiving an audience, and everybody's wearing clothes, and some are wearing eyeglasses. So it's all of that. It's, in other words, everything we experience. The blue sky, the gray rug, the blue folder, yeah? Name, form, and perception. So our eyes and ears are perceiving things. Those are going into our consciousness, and our consciousness is making this whole little event, right? It and dust, so our enlightenment nature and all of that fit interpenetrate. They are not separate. So the wall, the air, this room, these people, we are all interpenetrating with our enlightenment nature. And you might ask, well, then why am I still suffering? We are simply creating the suffering in this extraordinarily clear moment. And all we have to do is stop creating the suffering. That, I say that like it's pretty simple. It is very simple to understand sometimes. It's kind of difficult to do. And the reason it's difficult is all of this habit energy that comes from our whole life also comes from our DNA. So my grandparents' habit energy is right here in the room. My great-grandparents' habit energy is right here in the room. And it's flowing like a river. It's a habit energy going, going, going. I can either touch it, hang on to it, and be miserable, or I can watch it, track my breath, and just stay in the room. Then I'm in the truth, I see the relationship to the truth, and function appears. So the poem, it and dust interpenetrate, it is already apparent in all things. Without cultivation, you are already complete. So how much cultivation did that take? You didn't have to meditate for years and years to hear that, yeah? Without cultivation, you are already complete. Most of our practice is trusting that. Is trusting, oh, there's something here that is indestructible, is naturally kind, and can help this world. I just have to find it. I have to uncover it from the things I've covered it up with. And these impulses, whatever our impulses are, they all have a function. So it's all gold. If they're suffering, the suffering transforms into wisdom. So suffering even has a function. And rather than, most of us have been raised, so if suffering appears, push it away. Or think our way out of it. When I was 5 or 6, if I was suffering, my parents showed me how to get away from it. If I was 10 or 12 and suffering, well, here's the way out of that. Here's the way to understand that and get out of it. If I was 20 or 25, they said the same thing. 30 or 35, well, here's the way out of suffering. But the moment I started meditating, my teacher said to me, no, go into suffering. That suffering is yours. It's nobody else's. And nobody else can take it away. So until you become intimate with it, own it, see into it, then you'll find its function. And Buddha calls that liberation. Because then all of these things that felt like a cage, this bad habit, that bad habit, this ignorance, that ignorance, all this misunderstanding, becomes skill. Oh, now I understand why people act this way. Now I understand myself. The Buddha has a sutra which the show RuPaul's Drag Race quotes on a regular basis. How in the hell are you going to love someone else if you don't love yourself? Now they close every episode with that. The show's been running for 17 years, right? That's a cliche. There's a sutra from the Buddha fairly early on. A person must attain loving themselves before they can love even one other person, much less their family, their village, their country.